Hello, hello, hello. My mic working? I think so. How's everybody doing today? Missed you guys. I was in Vegas this past week, so I haven't been on any live streams I guess since like last Monday. So there's a lot to talk about. How's everybody doing today? Hold on, I'm going to change my audio here so it comes through. There we go. Comes through the headset, so we're not getting any feedback. Anyway, guys, there's a lot to cover. I'm going to talk about my experience at Bitcoin 2025 too. It was pretty cool and did some great networking, some major takeaways from the conference as well to cover. Also, I'm going to try to structure things based on some feedback I've been getting. I'm going to structure things a little bit differently. Generally, I start with DePIN, then go broader crypto, then go macro. I'm going to flip that around. Based on some feedback I've gotten, they're like, you know what, you should start with the, global news and macro, then go to crypto, then kind of get down to DePIN and kind of funnel the other direction. So we're going to give that a try today. We're going to see what you guys think about that. Definitely make sure to like, by the way, and share. If you're on X, make sure to share on X. And if you're not subscribed to me on YouTube, please be sure to do so. Did some really good networking out at the conference this week. Actually, got on a video podcast with your friend Andy. He's a pretty big account in the crypto space. So we were able to connect, talk about DePIN. So that should be posted probably in the next few days or so. So very exciting stuff there. All right, man. So, you know what? We're going to start out with our quote of the day, guys, because we always like to start off with a quote of the day. Got a good one for you today. It is, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Y'all, I am a firm believer in making your own luck. Okay. And I know there's always people that are like, man, I just got lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. To me, it's about how many at-bats you have. Okay. You have to put yourself in a position to get lucky. You have to kind of put yourself out there. If you're just, sitting at home and sit on your couch, you're not getting yourself in a good position to get lucky, guys. And I am a firm believer in this. Not to say you can't get lucky and like win the lottery or something, but what I mean is, taking a leap of faith, taking a chance in yourself, going out there, networking, going to events. If you've been thinking about starting a business, just putting yourself out there, in the more you put yourself out there, the more at bats you get, the more you run into the right people at the right time, if you will. And the good things happen, but you got to put in the work, guys. It's not going to happen on its own. And I've always been a firm believer of that. I know some people are like, well, I'm just so unlucky. Well, you can change that. Okay. You can change that. All right. Let's get into the news, guys. Let's get into the global news to start with. We're going to talk about global news, macro news. There's a lot going on right now. Number one, though, about is this news about this massive hack that just happened. 184 million Apple and Google accounts. They're saying you should definitely change your passwords now. Okay, this is a massive breach. It's being characterized as, let me pull this up, as a cyber criminal's dream. 184 million online accounts. What's crazy about this? So it's Apple, Facebook, Google. It was on a centralized server, of course. But it's also, there are governments that were tied to this and basically looking at a sample size of 10,000 of these stolen accounts. It's found that 220 email addresses with .gov domains were part of them across 29 countries, including the US, UK, Australia, Canada, China, India, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. So this is a massive, massive hack. So yeah, they're saying you should get ahead of it, go ahead and change your passwords. You know what, guys, this is, these types of things are going to continue happening. That's why I think these decentralized type of services, whether it be Flux, maybe, whether it be streaming data through Streamer, where you don't have anything stored on a centralized server, is going to be more and more attractive, because these types of hacks, these massive hacks, are going to continue happening, and they are incredibly costly. So if you do have accounts on those different forums, I would highly recommend changing your passwords today. This literally just broke really within the last couple of days. Again, I have a lot to cover today because I haven't been on like a week since I was in Vegas. Let's see here. What else do we have as far as news? Let me pull this back up here. We have the taco trades. I'm sure you guys have heard about this at this point, but his correspondent basically asked Trump what he thought about Wall Street making taco trades. Taco meaning Trump always chickens out, referring to the tariff situation. When I read this, I was like, why did you have to do that? I was like, that's going to piss him off, and we're going to see tariffs come back into the forefront. And lo and behold, that's exactly what we saw. We have, I think this is just as of really the last 24 hours. Here, I'll go ahead and play this, actually. I need to share just the tab. I'll play the audio for you guys, though. But there are tariffs galore all of a sudden, and the markets obviously have not reacted extremely well to this news. Let me throw this up here for you guys. Pull it. You guys can hear this. Oh, wait. Let me reshare this because I think I need to do it by the tab here. Chrome tab, yeah. Share audio. So there we go. You guys should be able to hear this now.
The game that Putin's been playing is about to change. He's going to be hit and hit hard by the United States when it comes to sanctions. China, the game you're playing with Russia is about to change. If you keep buying cheap Russian oil to fuel Putin's war machine, there'll be a 500% tariff on all of your products coming into the United States.
All right. So here we go. There's been a lot of calls for additional sanctions on Russia. So this is nothing new. This is something that politicians across the U.S. have been asking for. Other countries have been asking the U.S. for. So it appears that we are really trying to put the screws to Russia right now with these extra tariffs, 500% tariffs for countries that are importing from Russia. China and India are going to be the ones that are likely that hit the hardest because they do tend to rely more on Russian imports. Now, some other really breaking news. This happened really within the last probably 12 hours, I believe. This is just updated 3 hours ago. There was a massive attack that Ukraine staged on Russia. And a lot of this was breaking really last night into this morning. And here are the main notes. But there's a drone strikes inside Russia targeting dozens of strategic bombers at several bases. Now, the timing is really interesting because Zelensky just announced that he was sending a delegation to have ceasefire talks with Russia tomorrow. So, in other words, right before these talks are supposed to start, they had this huge attack. Apparently, did not notify the Trump administration. I've seen conflicting reports here, but this is from Axios. So, based on what they're saying, Trump didn't know about it, and this was something that had been in the plans for more than a year. But 40 Russian military planes were hit, and it's a substantial percentage. These bombers that were hit, this is a pretty big deal, and apparently we can expect some major retaliation on this. But they're supposed to have peace talks tomorrow, so we'll see how that plays out. But certainly things are definitely escalating between Russia and Ukraine right now, and not just with Russia. We also have things escalating again with China. And this happened, actually, this announcement was really Friday. Right after markets closed, Trump announced these steel tariffs. Let me pull this up for you real quick. It's like, why do you guys do this right when the markets close, right before the weekend? Everyone's like, oh, hopefully this weekend we'll have some solid price action. He's like, nah, we're not going to allow that, are we? Let me play this for you guys.
We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America.
Trump said that China had totally violated its agreement with U.S. He did not give details, but U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer later said China had not been removing non-tariff barriers as agreed under the deal. Beijing's response on Friday did not address the U.S. claims directly, but urged the U.S. to cease discriminatory restrictions against China. The strong statements from both sides have raised concerns that trade tensions could again escalate between the world's two largest economies despite recent negotiations.
Yeah. Okay. So, so things are certainly ramping up between the U.S. and China, and these steel tariffs. Canada's pretty pissed about this too, doubling from 25 to 50%. It's not great, not great news. And Bessent was asked about this. Let me pull up what Bessent said. He had a couple statements on this as far as the tariffs re-escalating and who's going to be taking on the brunt of those tariffs. So let me play that for you guys.
Make sure that there aren't price increases, Margaret. And thus far, there have been no price increases. Everything has been alarmist. That the inflation numbers are actually dropping. We saw the first drop of inflation in 4 years. The inflation numbers last week, they were very pro-consumer.
Right.
We've
but
seen,
you listen to earnings calls just like we do. Mm-hmm. You know what Walmart's saying, what Best Buy's saying, and what Target are saying.
But Margaret, I also know what Home Depot and Amazon are saying. I know what the South China Morning Post wrote within the past 24 hours, that 65% of the tariffs will likely be eaten by the Chinese producers. We wanted to make sure that there aren't pricing.
Yeah, look. In the last time we put tariffs on China, the manufacturers did eat a good portion of the cost of those tariffs. But these tariffs are higher, for one. And I think part of that was they were circumventing tariffs through Vietnam, through Mexico to kind of soften the blow. Right now, we have put tariffs on those other countries as well. So I don't know. One of the other things he said, and I have another clip here. I want to play one more clip. And then I do want to get to some comments from you guys because I saw something interesting that someone just said about Demo. I love Demo, by the way. It's a great project. Let's play this clip as well because I think it's important for context. From Scott Bessent, of course.
Well, I don't think it's intentional. I think that what Secretary Hegseth did was remind everyone that during COVID, China was an unreliable partner. And what we are trying to do is to de-risk. We do not want to decouple, Margaret, but we do need to de-risk, as we saw during COVID, whether it was with semiconductors, medicines, the other products. We are in the process of de-risking.
Making the United States less reliant on China, but at the same time.
And the whole world. The whole world, because what China is doing is they are holding back products that are essential for the industrial supply chains of India, of Europe, and that is not what a reliable partner does.
Yeah, and Scott Bessent talked about this before in his interview with Tucker Carlson about how we have certainly certain supply chains that we need to be less reliant on China for. Our medications, our rare earth minerals, and Trump came out last week and was like, hey, look, they're not playing ball, basically, based on the negotiations that we had. So, look, things are escalating with China. And it's not just on the tariffs, by the way, guys. This is there's other stuff that Pete Hegseth came out with. And this is a big deal with China and Taiwan. Let me pull this up for you guys. So, he came out and basically said that China is practicing to take Taiwan by force, and it's no longer just building up its military force to take Taiwan. It's actually training for it every day. China obviously responded and said, China threatens the U.S. to not play with fire over Taiwan. So, oh, man, between tariffs, between the escalations over Taiwan, things are looking a little bit hairy right now with China. And again, all this uncertainty leads to instability in markets, right? And I think we're going to continue to see volatility as all this plays out. Obviously, also looking at the new sanctions, threatening 500% tariffs for anyone importing from Russia. So things are moving in the wrong direction, I would say. But things to keep an eye on. It's going to be really interesting over the next 24, 48 hours to see how this all plays out. Let's get some comments, guys. Demo to announce a big customer first week in June. Reddit and Discord from a team member could be interesting. Hell yeah. I don't know who the customer is. I talked to Alex probably a couple weeks ago, and he's like, look, we have some massive announcements coming. He couldn't divulge the details to me, so I think that'd be really exciting. I know they've been working with some vehicle manufacturers, some OEMs, and incorporating Demo hardware and software directly in before it even gets to the consumer. So maybe that's what it is. We'll have to wait and see. Demo is like, let's just pull up the price of Demo while we're here. But Demo is flying under the radar so much, man, and it's one of my favorite projects. I think the big problem is people don't really understand what they're doing. But y'all, I mean, let's take a look here. You're sitting at a $20 million market cap. $20 million market cap. That is crazy. And you look at all the things they're doing. I mean, they're driving real revenue. I think there's a path to them being one of the top revenue producing DePIN projects by the end of this year. You look at the amount of vehicles being added, you look at the apps that are being built and utilized now, and the fact that, for every vehicle connecting to an app, it generates revenue now for that connection. Huge believer of Demo. I have 250 vehicles connected in my fleet, so obviously I'm a big fan. But yeah, what do you say? Demo is a true gem, easy 250. I would have to agree with you. I agree. It's one of my highest conviction plays, and I think for risk reward for where we're at, not financial advice, I think is one of the better plays right now in DePIN. The team too, and I when I went on the podcast with your friend Andy when I was in Vegas, we were talking, DePIN rather. The teams are so important right now, and I'll talk more about DePIN as a whole and where I think we are. But the teams are so important, and Demo's team is freaking bar none, man. They are awesome, constantly building, and I think it's just a matter of time. Honestly, love Demo. What's up, Bob? I agree, man. I love Demo too. Oh, Eddie's in the house. What's good, man? What's good? Always a weekend of uncertainty for the next week. Yeah. What the heck, man? It's like right when the markets are closing on Friday, he's like, yeah, let's get some statement out there to like cause uncertainty for the next 2 days. It's like, man, can we just enjoy our weekend, bro? Come on. He did not provide details. Not sure what that is, what that's referring to. The rumor of Powell resigning. I'm gonna talk about that, Bob. We're gonna cover that. Let's see. I've got a couple other things I want to talk about from the global news real quick, and then we're gonna get into some crypto news, guys, and the takeaways from the Bitcoin conference. So Iran apparently now has enough enriched uranium for 10 nuclear weapons. Obviously, the U.S. is trying to negotiate with Iran right now, and after his Middle East trip last week, they basically urged Iran to get some negotiation going with the U.S. One of the big problems here is that China has been buying oil from Iran, and we have all these sanctions on Iran. I think they've done like a 7x in their oil exports, and that's how they're getting a lot of their funding. It's like, come on, China. But it's China. What are you going to do? The other thing I found kind of interesting. So U.S. issues level 2 travel warning for those visiting Italy and Belgium. Now, it's worth noting that a level 2 warning is the second lowest on the State Department scale, but they still are saying that travelers should remain aware of their surroundings when visiting. In particular, the advisory says that visitors should stay alert in tourist areas as they can be targeted in an attack. So if anyone is planning on traveling to Belgium and Italy, just be aware of that. A new COVID variant. there's a lot of news going around about this the last few days. Now, it says that it does not lead to more severe illness, but it does appear to spread more easily. So we're going to continue seeing these types of variants forever. But this one in particular has been getting a little bit more news than other variants that we've seen. And this is actually, I think, a bullish thing. There's $7.24 trillion sitting in money market funds. That is all money sidelined that can come back into markets once we have stability. We've seen the major driving force when it comes to not crypto necessarily. I think crypto has been institutional money driving the move. But when it comes to the stock market, retail has largely been holding things up. You notice that the hedge funds, the big money has kind of been sidelined, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because over the last week it was the lowest year-to-date retail flow in the stock market, which again has been kind of propping things up to this point. So I think we could see, unless we see the institutional money come back in, big money come back in the stock market, we could see a pullback here based on retail kind of running out of ammo, it looks like. But again, this much money sidelined in money markets, that's a lot of cash on the sidelines, y'all. Like this is eventually going to start coming back into play. It's just a question of when. And I think a lot of it has to do with uncertainty around trades. So the trade war rather, and really just some of the stuff we talked about with China and Russia and Ukraine and all the things happening around the world right now causing instability. So anytime we see some of that stuff get worked out and we see some of these trade deals hopefully get set, like actual trade deals, not like these extensions, I think it's going to be really, really good for markets. Let's see. Someone said, find me on YouTube. Hell yeah. Let's see. Hold on. Did you subscribe? Let's see. Oh, yeah. Dude, you're my 1900th subscriber. We're grinding. We're getting there, man. Your friend Andy, I think he's like 140,000. So I was able to pick his brain a bit. It's really interesting. I've just been grinding, because DePIN's still this niche that's not well known. I'm covering a lot of projects that are early stages that I think are really promising. Now, I could have gone just for projects that have huge communities and just tried to expand that way. But I'm like, you know what? I want to cover projects that are early stages because I think those have the most potential for upside by getting in early. I've actually turned down some interviews with some bigger projects that I personally thought had red flags. So I don't cover projects unless I'm going to, invest in them myself. Not to say you should. I mean, everyone's risk tolerance is different. So that's my personal opinion, but I won't cover a project unless I personally have investment in it. And yeah, that's a slower grind for sure. But for me, I'm like, if I can cover all these projects early stages, when they do pop off, subscribers will come later. But I appreciate all the OGs that have been with me since the beginning, man. Y'all are great. And really appreciate you coming on and commenting and everything. All right. Let's see what we got in the crypto news. There's a lot to cover there. Let's see. You guys might have seen this. Let me share this. I think this would be cool. What do you guys? Tell me what you guys think. But Michael Saylor responded. It's like, hey, Joe Rogan, let's talk Bitcoin. Woo! I bet it happens. Man. It would break the internet. What did it say? This interview would shatter the internet. Y'all, that could be you talk about catalysts for bringing new money in. I mean, Joe Rogan has the biggest platform out there. Why hasn't he brought Michael Saylor on yet? But the fact that Michael Saylor reached out, I bet it does happen. And talk about all-time highs. I think that would be quite a catalyst. Appreciate you putting in the work. I appreciate you, man. I love doing this stuff. I do the research anyway for myself. I'm like, I might as well talk about it. It's fun, man. It's a lot of fun. What else we got? Here we go, Bob. The rumors are circulating. This is like, I'm starting to see this like in the last hour. You know, Trump and Powell met a few days ago. We don't really know what was discussed. I would assume it was something like Powell saying, yeah, well, we're going to do what the markets tell us to do. And Trump saying, you're too late. And, you know, all these other countries are lowering rates. Why have you not lowered rates? And probably accusing him of being political with it. I'm neither here nor there on that. But I have a hard, first off, there's no verified reports of this yet. You know, we can click Grok and see if there's anything new on it. I don't think so. The president lacks legal authority to fire, yeah. So there's no verified reports of this being accurate, but I'm starting to see a lot of accounts circulate this. I would doubt it because when Powell's been asked about this before, he basically said like, no, I'm not stepping down. So I don't know what would have changed. So I don't believe it. I'm not buying it. And he's in his position until May of 2026. So I think we're going to have Powell for another year. Could be wrong, though. I mean, we'll have to keep an eye on it and see if there are any verified reports that come out that support this rumor. But y'all, if he did step down and then they put someone in there that would start like lowering rates, yeah, we probably would have a pretty parabolic run. The question, though, that I would have is, he said, I'm skeptical. Yeah, I'm very skeptical about this as well. The question I have, though, is like, is lowering rates, I guess from a, you know, optic standpoint, it probably would cause markets to rally, but it's not going to fix the major underlying issue, in my opinion, which is the fact that no one's buying our long-term debt. Like, they lowered rates a full % at the end of last year, and our long-term treasury rates still increased. We just don't have enough demand. We have China selling off our long-term debt. Now, we have done pretty well in getting people to buy, you know, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year debt, but like the longer duration debt is not seeing any demand. So lowering interest rates certainly could help in certain respects, but I don't know that that's the answer. So we'll have to see if this plays out anyway. I have my doubts as well, man. Let's look at Bitcoin though. You know, we have seen a little bit of a rally back up. We're sitting at 105,000. That's one of the things at this conference. Like, everyone's just like, man, like it was high energy. Don't get me wrong, but it's just kind of crazy to me that we have these all-time highs hit and like it just doesn't seem like the excitement's there like in the past. Certainly retail is not back by any means. He said, "Oh, we're talking about the dropping rates might help short term, but long term." That's where I'm at with it. I think that we could see a nice rally still through June and into this summer, but I think there's more pain ahead. It's just a question of when. Is it this year? Is it next year? I don't know, but I don't think we're out of the woods. I think there's way too much stuff that's been breaking under, you know, beneath it all in the economy that I just do not trust these rallies to, you know, last for an extended period personally. Now that could change. Like, let's say the Fed comes in, they, you know, starts dropping rates, starts massive quantitative easing. Again, that could be a good short-term catalyst. That's really bad for the US dollar long-term though, in my opinion. But every country is doing it. That's why Bitcoin and gold are my major bull case long-term. I mean, they kind of, they hedge against all of that, right? All right. We talk about this a lot, but y'all, like, the supply shock is coming, man. It's just a matter of when you have ETH and Bitcoin on exchanges hitting all-time lows. You know, these entities that are buying up the Bitcoin, I mean, we have to remember there's 450 new Bitcoin being mined per day. And you see these entities that are buying, you know, 20 to 30 days worth of mining. And now you have Jack Mallard with Strike that they're talking about, you know, trying to accumulate 1 million Bitcoin, you know, and more of this. it's the supply shock is going to hit, and when it hits, I think it's going to be quite violent. Now, you have Trump media. This happened when I was in Vegas, but it announced that they're buying $2.32 billion worth of Bitcoin as a treasury asset. Now, not everyone has been just buying. I think BlackRock, I think the ETF saw 7 days in a row of inflows. We did see them sell off. This was hitting the news. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, they sold off 4,100 Bitcoin." Blah 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 blah. But I bring up this particular post because when you put it into perspective, 4,113 out of 661,000, that's like 0.6% of their holdings, guys. So like, yeah, they sold some, but it's minute. They're still holding 661,000 Bitcoin. You're not going to have inflows every single day. That's not going to happen. That said, like Meta, and we've seen this now a couple times. Like I think Microsoft also actually went up for a vote, but they rejected adding a Bitcoin treasury proposal now, or adding Bitcoin to a treasury. Some of these big, companies right now, I think for them, there's more risk than not. I think it would be a good financial move for them to do it, but they have enough cash on hand as it is, and they don't need to rock the boat. And you have to look at the fact that right now, I think crypto in general is very well. That Fortune magazine, I think, highlighted it, right? The Fortune article rather that highlighted DePIN. And I brought that up last week. There's a perception problem with crypto right now. And I think a lot of it is, Trump's involvement is, turning off roughly half the country, and the media is just really hammering that a lot. So for Meta, it's like, yeah, maybe it's probably a good financial move, but how's it going to be looked at from the public? Is there enough upside for them to take this on when they don't need to? And I think at this point, no. And I think that's why we're seeing this stuff get rejected. I do believe, though, this will change. We're seeing with smaller companies, and I think we're going to start seeing bigger companies jump on board. Man, the winter mute. This happens every time we see Binance transferring their altcoins over to winter mute, and that's when you see these flush outs take place. We did see some pretty negative price action over the last few days. I think things are starting to bounce back a little bit today. But man, altcoins, it's been brutal. It's been absolutely brutal since the beginning of the year. We just have not seen a major bounce. I mean, there's been a couple, like the virtuals ecosystem. We've seen a couple of altcoins bounce, but like DePIN has been down pretty bad. But I think I'll talk more about this, but I think we're just earlier than we thought when it comes to DePIN. I believe we're in the right place, though, y'all. I really do. And that brings me to the Bitcoin conference. I thought this was kind of cool. This was near the beginning. They had like 3 people in the crowd. And I'll tell you what, it was electric at the conference. I mean, standing room only. And it was a massive space. So it was really, really cool. Got to see all the major speakers. And Ross Ulbricht being one of them. Actually, I was like walking, and I looked up, and we were like passing each other. I was like, "Whoa, that's kind of crazy." He had a lot of security detail around him, so it's hard to get to him. But he just received this $31 million donation. Someone just sent him 300 Bitcoin. Like, hey man, I'll drop you my wallet address too. That's pretty wild. Pretty wild. What else I have here? Oh, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I do want to talk about the conference a little bit. Got to see Cynthia Lummis speak. Her big thing was how it's been a little bit difficult, or it was difficult to get people from across the aisle, namely Democratic Party, to come in good faith on some of the legislation that's looking to be passed. But sounds like they're in a really good place. Obviously, get the stablecoin bill passed, and then the infrastructure bill should be coming after that. So certainly things are moving in the right direction. Seeing the Winklevoss twins and David Sachs on stage, they spent a lot of time talking about how the last administration was really, really tough on crypto. In fact, the Winklevoss twins came out and said that Jim and I, they were being debanked, and they were down to their last bank account. They're like, if that had gotten shut down, we probably would have had to close the doors. They said they were in like such a bad spot from being debanked, and it's really night and day what we're seeing now in the crypto industry, and things are really set up to explode and to put the U.S. in position to be really the leaders when it comes to innovation in crypto. Jack Mahler's got up there. He had a pretty good speech. That guy, he's like super comfortable on stage. And I mean, it was towards the end of the last day of the conference. It was him, and then Saylor spoke, and then Ross Ulbricht. But basically, he's talking about how, Strike, and then how they are really opening up lending, basically taking out loans against your Bitcoin. And that's one thing that has kind of been missing to this point. When you look at like the ultra wealthy, they basically just hold their assets and take out debt against their assets to invest. And then they never have to sell the underlying assets. That's what's coming with Bitcoin. And they're looking at rates from 9 to 13%. So I know that sounds crazy, but that's just kind of where rates are right now with where the Fed has taken rates. But that's going to be the next big thing, is really using your Bitcoin as collateral without having to sell your Bitcoin. So that's certainly, we're seeing a big transition there. I'm trying to think of who else I saw. I got it to meet and got to take a picture with Adam Back. So that was freaking cool. He's known to have exchanged emails with Satoshi. Some people think he is Satoshi. I don't know, but that was a pretty cool experience. And just the networking in general. But I'll say that one of the big takeaways I think I had from this conference is that we are really early when it comes to DePIN. I got to meet William, who I do a lot of X Spaces with, and we went around. There will be a video of this, but we went around and just asked people at the Bitcoin conference if they knew what DePIN was, and I think one person maybe knew about helium, and they're like, "Oh yeah," I was like, "Is that still a thing?" Like, well, yeah. There's actually 1 million devices connecting to helium daily now, and they were pretty mind blown. So I think that was a major takeaway for me. Obviously, we were at a Bitcoin conference, so there's a lot of Bitcoin maxis there. But I think we're just earlier than we realized. Coming into this market cycle with DePIN in particular, when you have Fortune coming out talking about this perception problem with crypto, but then highlighting DePIN as an area where we're seeing real teams building. You have Ariel on stage talking about how your traditional crypto VCs, they're still there, but we're starting to see more and more traditional Web 2 type investors come in and taking a look at DePIN. I think those are really good signals for where we're at. And then sitting down with your friend Andy and really talking DePIN, I think in kind of talking through that, we're just early. But I think the time is coming, and I believe, as we see some catalysts come into play, DePIN, I think, is going to explode. And it's really just, you look at the last market cycle where helium got up to, I forget what the market cap was, like $5 billion. Obviously, it was definitely overvalued. I think now we're at a place where a lot of these projects are significantly undervalued, and that is why I'm looking at which projects I can get into, which ones I can accumulate now, so when the move happens, I'm well positioned for it. So what are those catalysts? Well, the Solana ETF, I think that they just passed some legislation around staking. I think that's going to be huge. I think the Solana spot ETF is coming. I believe we have like $5 billion from the FTX disbursements coming in the next few days. So those certainly don't hurt. And then really, as we get this next wave of investors in with the stablecoin bill and everything passing, I think that Web 2 investors, your traditional investors that are looking to get into crypto, I think DePIN is going to really resonate with them, because you can kind of start to value it similarly to how you would look at normal companies, right? You have legitimate teams. You're building real world use cases. You're addressing real world problems, and you have revenue. Now, obviously, the token burns and the blockchain aspect are a little bit different, but I think that can be looked at as a very much a positive because it is kind of a new sector, but I think it checks off a lot of the boxes for things they look at in traditional finance. So I'm excited, man. It's been tough the last 4 or 5 months seeing the price action, but looking at what these teams are doing in the building that's taking place, I'm super excited. I do want to share one more clip before I dig into like the DePIN specific stuff, because I do have a lot to cover there. But this is actually from Larry Fink regarding tokenized assets. So let me pull this up for you guys and play that video.
We believe the next step going forward will be the tokenization of financial assets. And that means every stock, every bond will have its own basically QSIP. It'll be on one general ledger. Every investor, you and I, will have our own number, our own identification. We could rid ourselves of all issues around illicit activities around bonds and stocks and digital by having a tokenization. But the most importantly thing, we could customize strategies through tokenization that fits every individual. We would have instantaneous settlement. Think about all the costs of settling bonds and stock. But if you had a tokenization, everything would be immediate because it's just a line item. And so we believe this is a technological transformation for financial assets. If you want to talk about like voting and voting choice and all the things, if we know every moment who is the owner of that stock and it's now time to vote, every individual who has ownership is identified and they can vote their own shares.
Guys, we are so early and everything is going to be tokenized. Like when I say everything, most things will be tokenized. In blockchain technology is coming. I think we're very much ahead of the curve. And to me, that's so exciting. I think DePIN, we are really early when it comes to DePIN, but guys, I think once the floodgates open, it's going to get a little bit ridiculous in a good way. So I am like more bullish than ever that we are in the right place at the right time. It's just taking me a little bit of time to realize like, hey, we see it. It's so clear to us, but most people just don't know it exists. And I think it is that perception problem where people are like, hey, oh, you have all these grifters, you have meme coins, crypto is BS. They don't know that there are these smart teams that have been very effective in Web 2 and starting businesses and selling, having successful exits. They don't know that these people are over here building and they don't know about DePIN. The word will get out, y'all. And I think it'll be exciting for all of us when it happens. Let's get into the DePIN news though. So this came out, let's see, it was like middle of the week, or maybe it was like the day I left, and all these people are freaking out. You see sell-offs on Helium, sell-offs on Render, and you read into it, it's like, well, Helium Mobile is being delisted because Helium Mobile is no longer a thing, Like they went back to H&T. The RNDR, it's because they moved to the Render token. This is their old token. So great example, if you're paying attention to great opportunities to buy the dip, right? Because the sell-offs were unwarranted in this case. So always, pay attention, read between the lines because you can find opportunities in anything. But if anything, like Helium's fundamentals are stronger than they've ever been right now. So I'm super excited about where H&T is going. Another announcement here is that GeoNet, so they launched compatibility with Solana and brought some liquidity over there, but you can now choose which token you want to mine on which blockchain. So that's pretty cool. So if you are preferable to Solana over Polygon, you can choose to get your tokens on Solana. So I think we're going to see more and more projects do this because you can access so much more liquidity. When you look at the amount of liquidity on the Solana's chain, why would you just limit yourself to Polygon? And I think you're going to see more and more chains as we see liquidity come to those chains. You're going to see a lot of these projects offer support on multiple chains. And I think there's a lot of benefit to doing so. Anyone protocol, I'm waiting on my hardware from them. I'm going to do a hardware review, but I do think this project has legs. It's a privacy, censorship-free network. And look at them out there with Ross Ulbricht. I think that's very it's a good correlation there. So that was pretty cool. They got to meet with him and get a picture with him. One that I brought up, guys, in the last live stream was Havelo. And everyone's like, the whole community was like, yeah, man, this is a great project. Like, how come you haven't covered it yet? I was like, well, let me look into it. And I did just that. I listened to some podcasts, did a lot of research on my flights. This is one that's I'm going to be actually joining their space on Tuesday. I think they do like a coffee space or something. I'm going to join Tuesday morning, but they're doing something really cool. And essentially, if you have compute capacity, you can just go to their platform, and instead of having to do all the research about, okay, which project should I mine with, they will actually take that on for you. So you can, I guess, determine what type of compute you have to offer, and then they'll match you with the projects that are going to get you the best return for your resources. So kind of like the middleman to optimize your mining capabilities, which is pretty freaking cool. I think we're seeing this like with I believe it was Ado. I'll talk more about them in a minute, where if you have different IoT sensors, they can essentially help set you up with different DePIN projects to utilize those sensors with. And I think DePIN's getting big enough now that these types of platforms can exist. And I think it's really brilliant, actually. So big fan of Havelo. And hopefully I'm saying that right. I think it is Havelo. I was saying like Hivelo before. I think it is Havelo. But yeah, I'm going to be on that space, and then I'm looking to get their team on for an interview. So very exciting stuff there. I think it's a solid project. Odyssey is a platform. It's it's a decentralized platform they're doing for building websites, but it's basically Arweave bought Odyssey. So you're going to see more and more of these types of decentralized offerings on top of Arweave. And that is an ecosystem, y'all, that like I'm as bullish on Arweave as I am on any project right now. When you look at the amount of usage they're getting, the permanent storage solutions, so they're differentiated from everyone else. You have blockchains across all of crypto storing their data on Arweave. And now you're seeing all this stuff being built on top, including AO. AO is like a supercomputer built on Arweave. I have a tutorial on my channel on how to purchase AO, but there's a lot happening in the Arweave ecosystem, and it's something that I would recommend taking a hard look at, because I think there's gonna be a lot of massive opportunities there. I just have the article here, but anyway, it's a groundbreaking decentralized publishing platform that will transform how independent media operates online. So I myself am going to look for ways that I can leverage this portal as well. And I get in early on that. But, Arweave, to me, is one of the most high upside projects. You don't have to worry about further dilution. They're sitting at a $424 million market cap. You look at where this thing was before. This is before it was getting massive usage. Huge fan of Arweave. And I think right now, looking back, once the market comes back, people are going to look at these price points and be like, damn, should have hopped on that. ROVR is one I've talked about a bit in the past, but I did more research on this project, and I really, really like what they're doing. I think there's this misconception that they're trying to compete with HiveMapper. That's not really the case. HiveMapper is collecting imagery. They're looking to identify things using 2D imagery, and there's a huge use case there. Obviously, like Lyft is partnered with them. They have 4 of the top 10 mapping companies leveraging that data. So I think HiveMapper has a huge potential in the space, and I think they've done pretty well. They've obviously had some missteps along the way, but I think they've largely addressed a lot of that. But when you look at ROVR, they're doing HD mapping, so they're creating 3-dimensional maps. In particular, they're using LiDAR. So LiDAR is this, it's a laser system, shoots out a laser, has a return. Next laser goes a little bit further in return, but it basically allows you to do 3D mapping, which is going to be really, really important when it comes to autonomous vehicles, when it comes to robotics. And it's incredibly valuable data. I think there, it's on average $1,000 to $5,000 for every kilometer of HD mapping. So huge use case, and they're really in the right place at the right time. So, listening to their founder, the guy has all the experience you'd want out of a founder for a project like this. But for one, you have DePIN where it is today. So you can get the type of attention you need for it to be successful. But the LiDAR technology itself, like the hardware they have is really, really high-end hardware. And just in the last few years, it's come down in price to where this can actually happen. If you looked at this maybe a few years ago, I believe their founder said like this type of LiDAR technology was like 60 grand just a few years ago. So we are now at this point where like the technology has become affordable enough to where this project can actually exist. Not to mention they partner with GeoNet, and Mike Horton of GeoNet, he knows his stuff. He's really excited about this project. I've talked to him about it. I think that Rover is going to do some really big things. Then you have the AI aspect of it, right? And the LLMs and making the data actionable. So you kind of have all of these things come together at the perfect time for this project. Now, you have the LC, which is the light cone that goes on top of the vehicle. That's what it looks like right there. So not small by any means, but I bet if you like, there's a form you can fill out if you like follow a Rover, and then you can fill out this form to get on the wait list for the LC, the light cone. But I would bet that this thing is going to be one of those that like the project's still early stage. Being one of the first ones to have this on your car, I bet will pay dividends, I would imagine. So super, super excited about where this project's going. I was looking at the price. So they did just have a liquidity pool open. I don't think this is correct, this fully diluted market value. They need to update how much of their supply is in circulation. This is accurate for fully diluted. I just don't know what the actual market cap is based on what tokens are in circulation. So they need to update that. But this is a project I'm definitely looking at, and I am going to interview their team soon. You also have, let's see here. The Tarantula is another one that you can mine with. So it's not going to do like the LiDAR, but it is going to basically verify the network. This connects to the GeoNet network, but it's $149. So you can earn Rover tokens that way as well. The light cone is the one you have to go on the wait list for. And they're looking to drive the cost down more. But I'm pretty excited about this project. What else we got here? 375 AI. Did a lot more research on this one. It's a good thing. I'm interviewing their CEO tomorrow morning. Pretty excited about that. Guys, this project's going to be massive. I'm super, super excited about the project. Let me pull up my notes here. But their CEO was on Forbes 30 under 30. He's in his late 30s now. I believe he sold his first business for $320 million and was the CEO of Linksys for a couple of years. And essentially, he drew inspiration from like helium. You remember Pollen, which obviously they kind of rugged everyone and got out of crypto, but XNet being another one. And they became really large deployers for those projects and decided that they wanted to basically launch a project in the DePIN space where they had full control over it. And they're like, okay, what can we do in the DePIN space? And they decided that they would start to collect data and process it at the edge. So what they did is they basically formed a partnership with this company, Outfront Media. In this, they have like 40,000 billboards in high traffic areas around the country. They also have like a lot of, you see like at bus stops and stuff, like different screens for marketing. They also have a lot of that as well, but they signed an exclusive partnership that allows them to deploy hardware on these billboards all over the country. And essentially what they have is the first device it's called the 375 Edge. And it's 6 different cameras. And then they have like a $10,000 NVIDIA GPU incorporated into the hardware. So you think about these cameras over the billboards, as foot traffic, as vehicle traffic flows through, they're collecting all this data, processing it at the edge. So let's say you want to know, well, there's a bunch of different potential revenue streams from this. So from a marketing perspective, let's say you want to know how to market to people in this specific geographical location. Well, you can say, okay, well, what type of vehicles are they driving? Are they driving Teslas? Are they driving huge trucks? Kind of get a better idea of like the demographics in that area and how you want to market to them. When you look at a public service, right? Let's say you have an Amber Alert, okay, or a stolen vehicle. Now you can find that vehicle a lot faster. Other one that I thought was really interesting is hedge funds. So hedge funds are looking for any new data sets they can possibly get for their algorithms. So in this case, they'll be able to know like how many commercial vehicles are going through this area, what type of vehicles, how many people in the vehicles, etc., and get a new data set that hasn't existed to this point. And they already have revenue, guys. So they have 50 of these original devices deployed. They're already collecting a lot in LA region when it comes to the amount of traffic coming through. They also have other hardware they're going to be launching. There's a lower cost version at like $1,000 where they'll have 2 cameras for the more outlying areas that you and I could deploy with. Now the edge, the one with the NVIDIA GPUs I talked about, they're going to start offering fractional ownership. So kind of like what Daba's doing, where you can just invest in the hardware, it's installed for you, and you get a percentage of the tokens. So if you want to be more hands-off, you can go that route. But it's massive. There's a 375 Go app, by the way. So that measures connectivity with different networks, speed of networks, and you can earn tokens that way as well, just by downloading the app. So let me see if I can pull that up actually. So we've got, there's the app right there, 375 Go app. So you can start earning tokens. They haven't had their mainnet yet. They're going to be on Solana, but you'll start earning pre-mined tokens so that when they do have their TGE, you'll get a token allocation. But it's basically like a hex type deal. So as you measure certain different hexes, you get tokens for doing so. But this team's a rock star team, and you think about the projects I'm always looking at, right, or how the data collection for one, and then I like the GPU networks that are powering AI, the movement that's coming. So when you have something like this, where you're combining essentially data collection and the processing at the edge, and you have a team like this, I think this project is going to go do absolutely incredible things. Like I'm really, really bullish on where they're going. It's super exciting, really. They also announced this partnership with Ado. So I did some research on Ado. They're kind of like Havelo, but instead of you just like saying, hey, I have this much compute power, this is more so for like DePIN or IoT sensors. So let's say you have cameras, certain IoT cameras or sensors. You can go to Ado and say, hey, look, I have this hardware. Connect me with the DePIN projects that I can earn with through this hardware. And 375 AI partner with them. So there's like 50 different types of cameras now that they're going to be able to access data through by partnering with Ado. So again, the more data, the better, man. It's all about quality data, obviously. But if you can collect data and get access to data at that scale, and you can process it, and you know who the customers are, man, they say the data is the new oil. And I think GPUs, compute resources, and data, yes, I think that is the new oil. I think that's where the opportunities are, and there's a lot of it in DePIN. A lot of it. So super exciting stuff, guys. So again, I'm going to have that 375 AI. I'm going to have that interview done tomorrow morning. So I'll get it posted this week. I should definitely check that out. Other news, ROVR. I'm connected with Ado, Havelo. I'm trying to think of what other projects. I'm doing an interview with WeatherXM team coming up. I'm also going to do some videos for them on their targeted rollouts that they're doing. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Man, Anyone Network, I've got something lined up with. And then I've got that interview, the podcast I did with your friend Andy. So that'll be pretty cool. He'll be posting that on his channels. I'm trying to think what else. I don't know. I've got a lot. I'm going to be in Washington this week for my niece's graduation, but I'm going to try to do some live streams while I'm out there. And then after that, I'll be back. So not this coming week, but the week after that, I'll be back in Chicago for most of the summer. I won't have a ton of travel, so I'll be able to get on here every day, baby. And really excited. There's so much happening, guys, in this space right now. And after being out in Vegas and meeting other people in the space, like I think we're just a little earlier than we thought, but that's where you want to be. You want to be early with these projects, and I'm going to try to find as many of them as I can, like pre-TGE, so we can get involved in them on the front end. And that's frankly just like any investment. I know that a lot of people are like, well, yeah, so you just like get in early and make more. It's like, well, I mean, if you're an early investor in any company, you're taking on more risk. So for us, it's just about identifying which ones have the best teams, have the best use cases, and the most promise. Get involved in those ones early. So that is my goal. And I'm going to keep bringing these to you guys so we can learn about them. And I think that is very exciting. Anyway, it's long-winded, y'all. But that was a lot to cover. It's been a little while since I've been on. Hopefully y'all are having a fantastic Sunday. It's hard to believe it's June 1st. Wow. All right. Well, for all y'all that were in the comments today, I really appreciate you guys. Make sure to share my channel. And I'm going to start taking some more like shorter clips out of some of the stuff I discussed, post that to my YouTube and to X to make it easier for people to digest. But with that said, y'all have a wonderful day. Get outside, get your body moving, get some fresh air. It's beautiful here in Chicago. Hopefully it's beautiful where you are as well. And remember, we put ourselves in a position to get lucky. So get out there and make some moves, y'all. Cheers.